are truly called to make the world a better place. In fact, it's in our DNA to make the world a better place. Listen to what Jesus says. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its taste, with what can it be seasoned? You are the light of the world. A city set on a mountain cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and then put it under a bushel basket. It is set on a lampstand. If you take a moment to think of salt, what does salt do? You take salt, you put it on a piece of steak, and the steak tastes better, right? You put salt on a piece of meat, it prevents the meat from falling into decay. Like in the ancient world, they didn't have refrigeration, so salt was used as a preservative. I was actually talking to somebody in the morning, or yesterday actually, from the East Coast, from the Midwest, and they say salt also has another use. They spray it on the road so that you don't slip and slide in snow, right? So it melts the ice. So if you think about it, that's kind of our role. We make things better. We make the world a better place. If Christians didn't exist in the world would be very bland, very full of decay, and full of cold hearts. So we make the world a better place. If you think of light, you walk into a dark room, you flip the switch, you turn on the light. Light illumines what's there, the reality that's there. You look in the corner and you say, oh, there's a table, there's a chair there. Ah, flowers, that's really pretty. And then you look over this side and you say, oh, that wall, it's kind of dirty, it needs some work. But you realize or you see the reality that is there. Light illumines the reality that is there. In a sense, that's what we do in the world. We illumine the truth, the fullness of truth of what's in the world. And our light, of course, is a reflection of the true light, which is the light of Christ. And we reflect it in the world, and we make the world a better place. It's a wonder, and it's amazing that we've been given this task to make the world a better place. Now, how do we make the world a better place? How is it that we go out there to be salt and light, to make things better? We primarily do so through the proclamation of the gospel, through the proclamation of the good news of Jesus Christ. We give as a gift what we ourselves have received as a gift, namely the holy name of Jesus. Only Jesus can save us. Only Jesus can truly transform us and make us better people. And what better gift can I give to another person but Jesus Christ himself? So primarily, that's how we make the world a better place. The same way we have been made better by receiving Jesus Christ into our lives. However, that's not the only way. We also make the world a better place through our works of charity. The works of charity. Jesus Christ, in fact, tells us that our proclamation of the gospel always goes in hand with our works of charity. Because you and I, as Christians, are always concerned about the full person, the whole person. We are there for their spiritual well-being, but we also take care of their bodily needs. Over and over again in the gospel, Jesus tells us, whatever you do to these, the least of my brethren, you do unto me. They will ask you, where did you see you hungry? Where did I feed you? Jesus tells us works of charity are super important for us as Christians, because not only are we interested in the spiritual well-being of the person, but we even take care of their bodily needs, the whole person. We take care of the whole person. And so both the proclamation of the gospel and our works of charity are ways by which you and I truly make the world a better place. As a matter of fact, sometimes our works of charity, in fact all the time, demonstrate our faith. When people see the works of charity that we do, the works of serving the poor, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, people are able to look and say, truly they see a demonstration of the fact that these people believe. And those works are so compelling at times that they give a compelling witness of the fact that you and I are Christian believers. And in many respects and in many cases, in places where maybe there's an obstacle or something from the inside or the outside that makes it very difficult for us to explicitly proclaim the name of Jesus, the avenue of charity is a very effective route that we can take. I'm thinking here, for example, of people like Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She went and began a ministry of the missionaries of charity in a predominantly Hindu country in India. And yet on those streets of Calcutta, through those acts of charity, where in her mind she was serving Jesus in the distressing disguise of the poor, she was actually serving anybody and everybody. And those who saw her would say, what is up with this woman? Why does she do all this? How is it that she does this? Provided a compelling witness of the power of the gospel in work in that woman. And many people's lives were transformed and many people were converted. I know a famous journalist, I think by the name of Malcolm Muggeridge, ended up converting because of that experience of seeing what Mother Teresa was doing. I think of now, even around the world, I remember when I went on a pilgrimage 2 years ago, we went to the Holy Land and we were in Palestine, in the Palestinian territory. And I remember in one of the places in Palestine, they were telling us there's like 90% Muslims in this particular area, but the vast majority of schools that are there are Catholic schools, because very often those Catholic schools are the only way the people there are going to get an education. Again, we let the light shine. It may be difficult to explicitly proclaim the name of Jesus in some of these areas, but we're still proclaiming his name through that avenue of our charitable works. In Jericho, for example, I remember there was no playground. They even told us this. There's no playground in this entire city provided by any of the authority. The only playground you find in that city is found at the Catholic institutions, at the Catholic school, at the Catholic churches. And that's how the children there play, even though they are not Catholic, they're not even Christian. But that's what we do as Christians. We make the world a better place. And this story and this refrain is found all over the world. Literally millions and millions of people, Catholic and non-Catholic, have had lives concretely changed for the better because of the works of Christians. People who are not even Christian all over the world have had their lives concretely changed for the better because of the fact that you and I as Christians go out there and do what we're called to do by Jesus Christ, to be salt and light of the world. Now, precisely because making the world a better place is part of our DNA, that's what we're called to do. And we do this primarily through the proclamation of the gospel and charitable works. That is why the CDA exists, the Charity and Development Appeal. And just so you know, CDA, or the Charity Development Appeal, is never going to go away. Sorry. And we're always going to be coming to you year after year. As Bishop pointed out, it's been 50 years. So the diocese is only 50 years. So since the establishment of the diocese, this has been going on. Why is that? Because as long as there is a need out there, as long as there is a need in our local community, because that's what CDA serves, it serves the local community, our local community of the local church of the Diocese of Phoenix. CDA is the arm that allows us to do all the charitable works of the Catholic Church within the Diocese of Phoenix. And so as long as there's a need out there, as long as there's somebody who has a need, the Catholic Church is always going to respond in some way. That is why the CDA is going to happen year after year after year, even when we have just had the capital campaign, because these needs are ongoing. You know, you feed the homeless person today, that homeless shelter needs more food, right? It's not like they have an endless supply, so there's always an ongoing need for support. And Bishop pointed out some of the ministries that are supported by this ministry, by this appeal. He talked about the Native American, communities that maybe can't sustain themselves entirely as a parish community, but survive precisely because of funding that comes from CDA. Tuition assistance, as Bishop pointed out. I mean, a plethora of other organizations, the people who serve the poor in the downtown. One of the areas I even found was I was talking to one of the sisters, a nun, Sister Betty Banja. And Sister Betty Banja is actually from South Sudan, and she speaks Arabic. And she was telling me Phoenix is one of the areas which the United States government, whenever they resettle refugees, this is one of the areas refugees are resettled. And many of these people are coming in from the Middle East and Africa and from war-torn countries, and we're at the front line of helping them and settling them in. And I think it's pretty cool that the first face that these people who are coming from war-torn countries see when they come to the New World, when they come to America, is the face of the Catholic Church, welcoming them and helping them to settle down. So we're making a difference, making the world a better place. And you and I literally do that every day in our own community and around the world. And I think the CDA, Charity and Development Appeal, is a concrete way that you've already, ongoing over the years, been doing and making the world in our own community truly a better place. Lastly, I just wanted to say this so there's clarity. I know sometimes people will say, well, we just had the capital campaign and we talked about that big time throughout the last couple of months. Why are we doing this again? Again, remember, there's a distinction there. The capital campaign, as the bishop spoke about, is something over and above the norm, right? This is something special. This has to do with advancing the mission, discipleship, and evangelization. There's a growing need because our diocese is growing and we're seeing a need for better evangelization. So we're looking interiorly and saying, how do we form better disciples? How do we evangelize? So there's a special need to do some of these capital projects like building a school, improving our Newman centers, fixing up our building. That's what that is all about. It's over and above the norm. But CDA, as I said, it's never going to go away. It's going to exist in some form. As long as the church exists, it'll always be there, because this is addressing the needs of anybody and everybody who lives within the territory of the Diocese of Phoenix who has a need. The Catholic Church is always going to respond in some way to meet their needs, bodily or spiritual. That's what CDA is really all about. So I encourage you to participate, continue your participation. Thank you for your participation over the years. May you and I, as Jesus Christ has invited us today, truly be salt and light, make the world a better place, bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to all people, whether through proclamation of the kingdom or through our works of charity. Praise be Jesus Christ.